Yeah. Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Let's get it. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam. Sean on the mic, very flat too. Keep you updated, that's what we do. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program.
Yo, what it do, everybody? It's your boy John Altidor, Pro Fan Sports Podcast, where the fans of the pros go back at you with another one. My boys Vlad, Barry, and somebody that seems like he's worked for everything Boston sports, from WBZ to WEEI. He's an NFL analyst, former Patriots player. This guy's all over the place. Jermain Wiggins, man, thanks for coming through. How you doing?
Not a problem, man. Thanks for having me. Hopefully everybody can hear me all right and everything. So I kind of live in the country, so my Wi-Fi is a little bit
shitty at times. It's all good. No worries.
It's technology.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So while we got you on here, for sure, we wanted to interview you a little bit. But before we start that, if you're watching and support the show, make sure you're subscribing and making sure you're following us on social media, as well as Wiggy85, right, on Twitter.
Yeah,
right?
Wiggy85. That's where everybody can find me.
That's right, man.
Awesome,
I'm sure you don't need our help for that, but.
He's good, right? He's got plenty of followers, so we're trying to catch up to him, right? We're trying to get on your level.
Hey,
Wiggy, that's the goal. So we trying to get to where you're at, man.
Right. Any help is help, though. That's the way I was always taught. Any help is help.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate the help. Thanks for coming on here. It's definitely greatly appreciated and an absolute honor to have you on here. I've been following your work on the radios and and when you played for the Patriots, been following you for a while. So it's great to be able to meet you here and be able to be on the same podcast as you.
No doubt.
Absolutely, man. So obviously we were just talking about you're a former NFL player. I didn't realize you only actually played for the Patriots 1 year. It seemed like you played for the Patriots forever, man. And you kind of like started off the whole Patriots dynasty stuff, winning a Super Bowl in 2001 season, man. And obviously you've been following the team ever since then. Recently we lost the GOAT, but we're now in a little rebuilding situation. How you feeling about the team this year?
Well, I always tell people, long before I even was a professional athlete, I was a fan of the Patriots. I remember back in '86 when they played the Miami Dolphins in the AFC Championship, and then they played the Chicago Bears in the Super Bowl. I was a fan of the team then. I remember '96, I was in college. I was down at UGA, and they played the Packers in the Super Bowl, and I was a fan of the team then. I've been rooting for this team for a long time. So, I would try to tell people long before I played for them, I was a fan of them. So, and this just to be a part of that first Super Bowl, obviously as a player, you wish you could play for an organization, regardless of the organization, for a long period of time. But the way my career went, that's kind of the way it was. But I was fortunate enough to play for the Pats and play for them when they won the first Super Bowl. So, maybe it seems like a little bit longer because when you're there at the beginning, you're kind of part of building what that organization has become over the years. It's obviously a great honor. But yeah, man, when I look at this team and moving on from Tom Brady, I was like everybody else. I was hurt that Bill made that decision. I didn't agree with it at the time. I understand who Bill is and the way he looks at the future, or he looks at certain players. And obviously, I felt like Tom could play at a high level because of his skill set and just needed the right talent around him. But I'll always be a Pats fan. You know what I mean? I root for the guys when they're here, but I always root for the name on the front of the jersey, and I support the guys, when they play for the team. But when they move on, now they become the enemy. I appreciate what they did, but now you are the enemy, especially when you're playing against my Patriots team that, as a kid, I always admired, loved to watch growing up.
See,
Tom Brady is the enemy.
Wiggy's my guy. You know, I'm the same mindset here. You know what I'm saying? You left. You know what I mean? Like,
Wiggy, there's no way you can say Tom Brady is your enemy.
Oh, he's my enemy in the sense of when he plays
The Patriots.
against the Patriots.
Okay.
He's my. I still think he's an amazing guy off the field. I talk to him. You know, I got nothing but love for him. Obviously, you're happy for him still doing what he's doing. Am I happy that he still wins championships? No, because it's like a knife in the back. You know what I mean? It's like seeing that girl that you always loved for all these years, and then she goes off and she's now dating somebody new, and your life stinks, and she looks like she's living this amazing life. But so, you know, I'm happy for him, but to a certain extent, I'm more happy when the Patriots are winning and they are successful, because that's the team I root for. I root for the team that as a kid growing up before Brady got there, that's where my allegiance they lie to. You know what I mean? It's like I root for my city. I root for Boston. I root for Massachusetts. I root for any team that is from where I'm from, because that's this kind of area that made me, and that's where my love is. When people come through, I support them, but when they leave, they become the enemy.
Let me ask
my
you.
God. My God.
So, who did you support in the Super Bowl?
I have this one rule: if my team's not in it, I don't care who wins it. That's
really?
Yeah.
You didn't care who won last time?
No, I don't. Like, you know, I've always had that rule. I remember, you know, my grandfather always used to teach me that growing up as a kid. He's like, you know, he was a big Red Sox fan, and if like the Red Sox weren't in the World Series, he didn't give a shit who was playing in it. So that's like, man, my mentality. I'll watch it. Don't get it twisted. I'll watch it.
Yeah.
But I can care less who wins, because my team's not in it. And if my team's not in it, I'm not rooting for neither team. I can care less, and that's generally the way I've always been, and that's kind of the way I've raised my boys to be, even though they're different fans. But that's the way I'll be until you know, God sees fit for me no longer to be on this earth.
What team is all your boys fans of?
Well, you know, I've always kind of instilled the hometown team. Like, I've always said, hey, listen, you got to be Pats fans, you got to be Celtics fans, Bruins fans, Red Sox. If they try to kind of move away and like certain players, all right, I'll give them that, but they support the teams. I say, if you don't support the teams, you no longer will be able to live underneath my roof. That's it. You're out.
Damn.
You see,
give him the boot and kick him out like
That's
that.
it.
Damn, man. It's like that. Wow.
Wiggy's old school, kind of like me, man. You know, loyalty is everything. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But obviously, like you're saying, you grew up around here. You know, you played for the Patriots, and now, you know, you're part of the Boston media, obviously, and I'm glad you are, because, you know, as a former player, you know a lot of stuff that's going on that we don't. So I love listening to you and stuff. So how does it feel now, you know, having that influence on the Boston sports team?
Well, you know, it kind of goes back to, like I said, yeah, I'm in the media, but I don't really feel like I'm a media person, right? I feel like I'm a fan who was just fortunate enough to be blessed with the opportunity to be on the radio and talk about the sports teams, right? So that's kind of the approach that I look at. I don't claim to be no journalist or anything like that. You know, I root for the teams. I root for them to win. You know, do I think that they're always going to go undefeated? No. When they're not winning, I root for them to figure out what's the reason why they're not winning and fix those problems. You know, I'm a big Celtics fan. I always thought that moving on from Kyrie was a huge mistake. So then I'll be aggravated or upset at my team if they do things, just like a lot of people are upset that they moved on from Brady. And I have no problem with that. But it's at the end of the day, it all comes back to wanting to see that team be successful. You know what I mean? And so, yes, I happen to be on the radio. Yes, I happen to, you know, talk shit for 4 hours a day, because that's all I do. It's no different than when we were kids growing up in the city and we argued who was better, Magic or Bird, what team was better, Yankees, Red Sox, you know, Canadians, Bruins, all that stuff that you grew up as a kid doing. And so now I just do it on the radio, and you know, but I look at myself, who is a fortunate fan that happens to be on the radio, that happen to be fortunate enough to play in the NFL and win a Super Bowl. So, I mean, it just all works out for me in that aspect, but I'm still a fan.
Yeah, Wiggins.
That's awesome, man.
For sure.
Obviously.
Just wanted
Go
to
ahead,
ask
Barry.
Wiggy a question. So I don't know. I hear a lot of former Patriot players talk about like what the Patriot way is, and and how what I'm saying, things what I'm saying, you how Bill likes to run things out there and run the organization. And a lot of guys have come out on different shows and commented as far as what their what their definition of the Patriot way is. So what would your definition of the Patriot way be, as far as when you played and from what you've experienced?
Well, I think the Patriot way, to me, it's a real thing. I truly believe it, and I think it was obviously instilled by Bill. And what it is just guys buying into team first, right? Guys buying into my role on the team. I know it's cliche, do your job type of situation, but that's what it is. And guys really buying into it because they understand the greater goal is not the individual success, but the success of a team and winning championships, right? And obviously I think it's a little bit easier for people to buy into that when the team is successful. But I think Bill has created this culture that, like, hey, if you do your job, good things will happen. If you don't do your job, I'll get somebody else to do it. So I think that's what the Patriot way is that, as a player, for the most part, where you stand, the way Bill operates, even, Tom Brady to a certain extent, he had to believe that, knowing Bill and how he operates, there might be a chance where Bill didn't want to pay him X amount of dollars because of the way Bill operates. And that's part of the Patriots way on how Bill does things, that, it's not about me satisfying a guy to pay him a specific amount of money. It's me trying to do what's best for the football team. And so you as a player, you try to understand right from the beginning, the Patriot way, it's about business. And I think that's the thing I've respected the most from Belichick. I've been around a lot of coaches in my career. I played for Bill Parcells, Tony Dungy, John Fox, Bill Belichick. So I played for a ton of really, really great coaches. To me, the great ones keep it 100. There's no BS. This is what you got to do. If you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. Here's what, now I think the one thing that sometimes comes to be a little problem is where Bill might value you as financially. But we all know that's anything in life. You're going to view yourself like you're worth more than maybe what your employer is paying you. It's just the nature of the beast. So, but the Patriots way is buying into that system and buying into that way for the ultimate goal, which is winning championships.
It's awesome. That's great to hear that. Appreciate you answering the question. I definitely agree with that for sure.
Yeah,
it's all about winning and doing what's best for the team, and like you said, putting the team first, and and doing what the coaches ask you to do.
Right, and I think most people buy into it, but there are some people who play for the Patriots and they don't really buy into the system, and maybe they go other places and have success. So, and even like with Brady, people will say, "Well, look at Brady down in Tampa," but I think what Brady did is he brought that culture down there. So it's the Patriots way in the Buccaneers, and he's basically getting these guys to buy into what the most important thing is. You know what I mean? And I think that when you look at it, that's what a lot of guys that are successful and that kind of buy into it do. Where I played for other organizations, and it's just like, man, you know what? It's about me, and that's really it. Coach tells you one thing and does another thing. So, it's real, man. It is real. And Cam Newton says it. And here's a guy that was the number 1 overall pick. He played for a different organization for 10 years and came here and was like, yo, it's a real thing.
Yeah. So obviously, the preseason just ended, and the whole summer, we've heard about Mac Jones, Cam Newton competition, where, the fan base, if they had a choice, Mac Jones would be out there. What's your stance on it? What'd you see in the preseason? How'd you evaluate Mac Jones versus Cam Newton?
Well, I think Mac Jones has done a really good job this preseason. I think he's done a good job in training camp, preseason games. But for me, I still look at it. I think Cam has that experience. I know he had a horrible year last year overall, but I think there were some bright spots during that season. And for me, it was more about the talent around him, because that same talent he had last year, Brady had 2 years ago and struggled with, as far as the way we've seen Brady play before. So I think you have new talent. You have weapons around Cam Newton. He knows the system a little bit better. We're kind of we're close to as normal as a non-COVID kind of situation that we can deal with. And I think what you're going to see with Cam Newton is him have every opportunity, but there's no excuses for Cam Newton. You know what I mean? And I think you're going to see him do well. That's why I think you should at least start him. And if he doesn't do well, you go to Mac Jones.
And what does that look like if he's not doing well? What does?
Excuse me. I think that looks like 2 or 3 games of him really playing bad football, right? Where Bill goes, oh man, we just can't get it done with him. So I think it's like 2 or 3 games of him really playing bad football, and that's when you see them make the transition to go to Mac Jones. If he has a bad game and then comes back with a good performance or a mediocre performance and they win the football game, I don't think that's enough. I think it's got to be 2 or 3 games of him playing bad and them losing or barely winning, and then maybe winning more because of their defense, where you might see them go make the change.
Yeah, speaking of defense, it looks like we'll probably have a dominating line this year, with the pass rush and everything, and them coming back. What are you seeing there? What do you think is going to make a big jump this year?
I think that front seven is going to make a huge jump. I mean, you just talked about it, with that defensive line. That front seven is going to be huge. The addition of Matthew Judon, you got Hightower return, you bring back Kyle Van Noy. I think Josh Uche is going to really do a tremendous job. The D tackles, you got Christian Barmore, Devon Godchild. I think there's, Lawrence Guy. Your front seven is going to look completely different. I think the one issue that I'm going to have is what's going on with Stephon Gilmore, because you get him back. I think you now go from not just a very good defense, but maybe you go to an elite defense if you get Stephon Gilmore back. So now you have a team that's an elite defense. You run the football well. You got a good offensive line, and you kind of control the passing game in the way where you're getting the ball to the tight ends. You're taking shots every blue moon, but it's more about moving the sticks, playing smart on offense, and putting yourself in a position where offensively you're not doing anything that is going to affect the game because of mistakes that you make. Very similar to what you saw in 2001, playing towards the strength of the elite defense. So, the key is going to be Gilmore, which I think they'll probably get something done. But if you get him back, you now go from a good defense to an elite defense.
Does this Patriots team makes it to the playoff?
Yeah, I think this Patriots team is a playoff team all day long. I think they're one of the 7 best teams in the AFC. You factor the head coach into that. He's obviously going to put you in a position where when those games are critical and it comes down to coaching decisions, he's always going to give you the advantage. I think just on paper with the team that you have with either quarterback, you should be able to roll out 8 wins. So I think if you can roll out, you rolled out 7 wins last year and your team wasn't very good, I think you're a playoff team all day long. And I expect the Patriots to make the playoffs.
Any more Pat's question, guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had one. So which young player on the team, Wiggy, do you think that is going to make the biggest leap? Both on offense and on defense. Who do you see, making the biggest leap this year for the Pats?
The guy I got my eye on is Josh Uche. I think Josh Uche could really be that guy that you see. You know, he's shown a little bit in some of these preseason games, but he really could be that guy that you see, you know, on third down situations, really creating havoc, really getting after the quarterback. He's one of those young guys where I expect him to be like, wow, this kid is impressive. You know what? He's getting after the quarterback. He's making some things happen as a pass rusher. So he's somebody that I look for on the defensive side of the football. On the offensive side of the football, you know, there's really no young guys. I have my expectations are high for Damian Harris. So even though he's a young guy, I still have high expectations for him. Jacoby Myers, I feel like he's consistent and, you know, he's going to be, you know, doing what he's going to be doing. So on offense, I don't really see a young guy on that position where I can go, oh, maybe this guy could really have a breakout year or do some things, because I think it's a little bit more veteran-based offensively. So I look at their defense and Josh Uche and what he could, you know, somebody that, you know, people know, but wow, this kid made a major impact this season.
Definitely, absolutely. I'm certainly agree with you on that.
What is a respectable record for this year's Patriots team?
I think 10-7, 11-6. You know, it's weird with the 17-game schedule to say that, but I think when you look at their schedule, they have a very easy schedule. So I think easily 10-6. I would say the minimum is 10, but I can easily see them winning 11 games all day long, and that being a playoff caliber team, that being enough to get you into the playoffs. So yeah, when I look at their schedule, I kind of put them at 11 wins. You know, if you had to say, hey, over and under on 11, I would definitely say 11 wins, and that, you know, that's kind of where I'd put them.
What happens week 4?
That becomes the matchup of the century that, you know, we've been waiting for this matchup, and it's the genius of Bill Belichick defensively versus the genius of Tom Brady as a quarterback. And they both know each other inside and out. And who does something that the other one doesn't expect? You know, what kind of defense does Bill draw up to try to confuse Brady? What kind of defense does Bill draw up to make Brady say, okay, you're not going to beat us this specific way? What does Brady do offensively to say, okay, hey, Bill, I know what you're going to do. Here's where I'm going to counter. I think it's going to be such an intriguing matchup. You know, they know each other inside and out. They understand how the mind works. And, you know, it's like you have the kind of the master, the professor now taking on his star pupil, his star student. And that is going to be a fantastic, fantastic game.
And Brady's going to come on top.
Listen, he's going to be fade. Yeah,
I'm loyal. I'm just real. I'm just real.
No belief.
No loyalty.
I'm just real. No, that is loyalty, but I'm just real. Brady's gonna come on top.
Are you a Pats fan or a Brady fan?
I'm a Pats fan. I just know that Brady's gonna come on top in that matchup.
Okay. So who are you rooting for to win?
Patriots.
Okay, but you feel like Brady's gonna have a good game.
Yeah. Brady's gonna. You know how much Brady's looking forward to that matchup.
They both
oh my
believe
goodness.
that. They both are. That's real. They both are looking forward to that matchup because they both know it. Brady's kind of proven it this year that he can do it without Belichick, but Bill definitely hears the noise, and now he knows. You don't think if Bill goes out there and puts it on Brady, where he has like 2 interceptions, he gets hit a bunch of times, and he doesn't look good against Bill, you don't think Bill's going to have a huge smile on his face. And especially if they win the football game, come on, man, Bill's going to love that.
Absolutely, definitely.
And I think this is the last question right here about the Pats, because I want to get to a couple questions about the Celtics before you have to go.
I had one more Pats question, but, go ahead, John.
Okay, we can make that one the last question. But for me, I heard somebody say this will be, week 4 will be the biggest regular season game in Patriots history. Do you agree with that or not?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know what? I would even say it would be the biggest. I know the Super Bowls are the biggest game, and I understand that. But for Pats fans, I feel like this game will be the biggest game in Patriots history, period. So unless they play again,
What? Even bigger than the Super Bowls?
Even bigger than the Super Bowls, unless they play in the Super Bowl,
What?
because you have the greatest quarterback of all time still playing at a high level, going against the greatest coach of all time. And the reason why they are the GOATs is because of what they did together and them playing against each other. Like, I know the Super Bowls are huge, but man, if you ask me, I can only, like, when this game is over, if you ask me, you can only watch one game. You know, you're on death row. You got one meal. You can only watch one game. I'm watching Pats versus Bucks.
If that's crazy, because I disagree with you, because I think there's two games that I'm choosing from that are the most important in past history, right? So it's either the snow game against the Oakland Raiders,
Right.
or
The Tuck Rule.
or that Super Bowl that Super Bowl that you played in. But if I'm on death row and I can only watch one game, I'm watching that Patriots versus Falcons game.
Okay.
That's right.
But see, here's where I disagree, because you've never seen this in any sport where you have the greatest coach and the greatest player, who the reason why they're the greatest because they were together for 19 years and won multiple championships, went to multiple Super Bowls, and now they're facing each other. And I don't want to say, like, Brady is not past his prime. Let's not get it twisted. I mean, the guy was probably second in MVP or third in MVP voting last year. So the guy's still playing at a high level. It's not like, you know, the guy's way past his prime. Same with Bill Belichick. Now to, like, see them two go head to head, you know, I don't think you can ever, like, there could never be another matchup like that, because you would have needed LeBron James and Michael Jordan to be teammates and win 6 championships, and them face each other, you know, or the two greatest basketball players of all time then face each other. And, you know, but they were teammates for, you know, 15 years, and they were still playing at the kind of the prime of their career, you know. To me, I don't know. I just think this is going to be the biggest game in Patriots. I know the Super Bowls, how big they are and everything, but Brady versus Belichick, come on, man. It's like, man, you know what I mean? It's crazy when you think about it like that.
It is, right?
It's crazy. It's like splitting Wu-Tang in half and saying, all right, we're putting 4 of you guys over here and 4 of you guys over here, and now we're going to have a rap battle. It's just crazy to think.
It's versus battle.
Yeah, right. With half of the Wu-Tang. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is definitely. I just wanted to ask you, Wigyy. I know you were saying earlier that you were part of that, you know, first Super Bowl at 2001, you know, championship run, you know, and there was some, you know, pretty legendary and epic games in that run, from the Snow Bowl game to the, you know, AFC Championship game against the Steelers, and then obviously the Super Bowl. What was, like, your favorite memory and moment that stood out to you during that, you know, season? And then also, how did it feel when you guys won and came out on top and, you know, did the unexpected, beating done, you know, Ren's team, the greatest show on turf, and, you know, and being world champions?
And I'm gonna add one more thing to Barry's question. I'm gonna piggyback. How did it feel to catch the last pass of that game as well?
Well, here you go. So my favorite moment is probably the catch right before Vinatieri kicks the field goal.
Yeah.
Or that's one of my favorite moments, right? So my 2 favorite moments are basically in that game. because the catch right before the field goal was like giving Adam an extra 7 or 8 yards and making it easier for him and making the field goal one of those field goals where, okay, this is in Adam's range. Like now it should be automatic, and to be part of that individually is an amazing feeling, and to make that catch. My favorite moment is when I'm on the field goal protection team and I'm blocking for Vinatieri. I'm more nervous on the field goal team than I am catching the ball, because you don't want to be that guy who gets called for a holding or misses a guy and he makes a block. So my favorite moment is being part of that, him kicking the football and me being on the field as I watch it split the upright. So like to be in that moment of being on the field when he kicks it through the uprights, and being part of that and knowing that that kick as it's traveling is gonna make you the world champs, and thinking back like, yo, wait a second. I'm a kid from Eastie. I grew up watching the Patriots, and I'm now standing on the field protecting the guy who is kicking the ball that is going to split the uprights to help my team that I grew up as a kid watching win a Super Bowl, and all my friends and family that are from Boston knowing that they're a Pats fan, and to be part of that moment. I don't think there's, that was the greatest moment of my career, is just to be part of it and then going, wow. Still to this day, people say it, I really still can't believe it. Because like I said, when we first started talking, I'm just a kid from Eastie, and I never had goals or dreams about playing in the NFL. That was never my aspiration. I was a basketball player growing up as a kid. I played AAU basketball, BNBL, high school basketball. We won a state championship. Like, that's what was my love as a kid. I was a football fan, but I never was like, I'm going to play in the NFL. Like my kids, my 2 boys have dreams of playing in the NFL. Like, I never had that, I was going to be a cop. A detective is what I wanted to be. And so, I was just never looked at it like that. And so, I mean, you probably know how it is. You got kids that grow up in this area, and they just want to do the right thing and get out of the area that they grew up in without, falling victim to the streets or falling victim to, crazy behavior. That's kind of what I was. I was one of those kids that. And so when I was on that field in that moment, that was like the thing to me that stood out, was like, wow, Jesus. Yeah. And it still doesn't hit me to this day. It's like, I won a Super Bowl, but I grew up on Princeton Street in East Boston. You know what I mean? So it's like,
yep.
It's crazy. So yeah, those are like kind of my favorite moments.
Gotta be humble, man.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Right.
That's for sure, man. I think you're wearing a Celtics hat on right now.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Always wearing the Celtics hat. Yeah.
Dope, man.
Yes, sir. Celtic Nation.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Celtics fan, man.
That's right. Stand up. So Brad Stevens, how's Brad Stevens doing so far, and what do you think about this roster he's built up this offseason?
I thought Brad was a good basketball coach when it came to coaching guys with lesser talent to get them to overachieve. I think he struggled when it came to coaching guys that in their minds were superstars, right? So the superstar ego of the NBA. Brad, as a GM, I think he did a good job on hiring Ime Udoka. But still, at the end of the day, it comes down to the players, not really the coach. And I hope that the Celtics somehow, some way, make a real push for like Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, because when you start to see the NBA, I think Tatum is on the right direction. I don't know how Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum play together. For some reason, it's this weird dynamic. Like, I watch them play and I go, Tatum's a superstar, Jaylen's an all-star player, but together it looks like there's this weird chemistry that it's not like Batman and Robin or this 1-2 punch. You know what I mean? I feel like there's something about that that's missing. And you need superstars to win, and you need two superstars to win. Now, I know the Milwaukee Bucks won this year. Luckily for them, Brooklyn had lost Kyrie Irving and James Harden, so it's one of those things when you start to look at the road, it's about health. And, if guys get hurt, can the Celtics win with the team that they have? And I don't think so, because Giannis is, let's be honest, Giannis is one of the top 5 players in the NBA. Until Tatum gets to that level and he could be one of the top 5 players in the NBA and put the team on his back, I just think that they need that, whether it's Beal, whether it's Lillard, whether it's one of those other superstars, and that can play well, even if that means trading Jaylen Brown. Play well with Jaylen Brown, because I just feel like, man, there's something weird about the way they play together. It's not like, it's not like that Steph Curry, KD. It's not like that LeBron, Anthony Davis, like where one of them knows
they don't play for each other.
Yeah, and one of them knows, like, okay, I'm the alpha dog. You're an alpha dog, but I'm the big dog. You know what I'm saying? And they both feel like they're big dogs, and that's the problem that you have. One of them's got to take a back seat, and that, in my opinion, is Jaylen Brown's got to be like, all right, I'll be your Robin. Will you play Batman? But Jaylen Brown wants to be like, yo, you're Batman, I'm Superman. So that's kind of where the problem lies, in my opinion, as a fan. You know what I mean? When I watch this team. Like, if Dame Lillard comes in, I think Tatum goes, okay, I mean, this is still my team, but I think Dame, I might take a small backseat to you at times. Where Bradley Beal comes in, I think Bradley Beal goes, okay, Tatum, you're the superstar, and I'm your right hand man. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to be the Don. No one wants to be the Capo.
That's right. That's right. No, absolutely. No, I hear you on that. That's some interesting Celtics take, but definitely a good one.
Absolutely. I know you guys got more questions about the Celtics, so go in, man.
Go ahead, Barry.
Okay. Whew. So about the Celtics. So want to talk a little bit about, as far as, do you think that why do you pretty much think like Danny left the Wolves like the pretty much the last straw to him leaving and him getting pushed out the door? And then also, do you think that the team pretty much like lost, like Brad lost his voice in the locker room, and that's why they ended up having him be the GM instead of the the coach. So just wanted to ask what your take was on that.
Well, see, in basketball, it's different, right? The coach, to me, is not as much as disciplinarian as they are in football, or maybe other sports like hockey, baseball, it's not about being a disciplinarian in basketball. In basketball, the head coach has to be respected by the players, right? It's got to be, okay, I respect this guy and I respect what this guy's opinion is. And then the head coach has to be like, okay, here's kind of how the hierarchy works. Tatum, you're at the top. Below him is Jaylen Brown. Then it's this guy. Then it's that guy. Then it's this guy. Marcus Smart, this is your role. This is what we need you to do. You don't shoot the ball, especially not from the three-point. You get 3 3-pointers a night. Like, but that's the way it is. Like, if you look at Draymond Green in Golden State, like, that's got to be Marcus Smart's role. But Brad allowed guys.
I don't see that. Sorry to cut you off, but I don't see Marcus Smart.
Right. So that's
that.
where. Right. So now that's where the coach has to step in and go, this is your role, and got to get that player to buy into it. Like, that was Draymond Green's role in Golden State, and it worked. You know what I mean? Draymond knew what he had to do. He knew what he was. And I don't think, and Steve Kerr kind of like managed the egos and got them to buy into that. I don't think Brad gave everybody the same voice, and when you give everybody the same voice, it just don't work out. Like I said, somebody's got to be the Don, right? You know, I'm a big mobster. I'm a big mob guy. I love mob movies. You know what? I grew up in an Italian household. I know it's kind of stereotypical, but you know, I seen that lifestyle. You grew up in East Boston in the late '80s and early '90s. You've seen that lifestyle, so it's like there's a Don. There's capo, there's soldiers, there's guys there's earners, right? So everybody has a specific role. And that's how it has to be in basketball, right? In basketball, it has to work that way. And I just don't feel like Brad implemented that. And now what you got was Tatum looking at Brown funny, Brown looking at Marcus Smart funny, Marcus Smart going, wait a second, if I get the ball in my hand, I'm taking the last shot. Where it's like, so I think that became the issue with this basketball team. You know, no one really understood their role, and you can't win in the NBA in today's game if you don't know your roles like that. Because the superstars do what they do, and Shaq always talks about it on Inside the NBA is the others then do what the others do. And if you're not willing to be another and you want to be a superstar and you're not, you're going to have issues. And I think that's what's going on with the Celtics right now.
No, but for sure, absolutely. Definitely just wanted to ask you talk a little bit Marcus Smart. What do you think about like the other guys on the team around, Tatum and Brown, the supporting cast like the Rob, Williams, Dennis Schroeder's, even some of the young guys like Peyton Pritchard, and the guys around him? What's your take on them?
I think those guys are fine, right? When you look at championship teams, you look at a team like Milwaukee who won it last year, they really did it on the back of Giannis and Chris Middleton. Even at times Chris Middleton disappeared, but Giannis is Giannis, right? He's a top 5 player in the NBA. And then you had like Drew Holiday who, at certain times, kind of made a big impact, but wasn't doing it night in and night out. You had other guys, Pat Connaughton, hitting shots when he needed to, Bobby Portis. So you had these guys buying into those roles. And I think the Celtics kind of have those guys. The problem's at the top. Those guys are not the issue. It becomes the top of the mountain, right? It becomes, does Tatum take that next step? And does he become the Giannis and go, okay, everybody else get the hell out the way. I'm dropping 40 tonight. Get on my back. And when I need you to make shots, you make shots, right? Or you do what you have to do in the other sense, right? To Tatum get to that level, right? When he gets there, and then maybe if Tatum's struggling a little bit, then you have that other guy who says, okay, I'm going to put this team on my back. You know what I mean? And there's Jalen, and do they work well together, Brown and Tatum, doing that? And are they good enough to beat somebody else's big 2 or big 3? That becomes the issue. Are they good enough to beat Brooklyn's big 3? I don't think so. Are they good enough to beat Milwaukee's big 2? I think they might be. Because if Giannis is amazing, but if you can defend him right, you make it tougher for him, right? And if you have the right people. So could they potentially beat Milwaukee? They're big 2? Maybe. Philadelphia, Joel Embiid, they're still looking for that second piece. It's clearly not Ben Simmons. The kid Tobias Harris, good player, but they still don't have that second piece. And then when it comes to the teams in the Western Conference, you got the Lakers, you got Golden State with Steph Curry and what happens with Klay Thompson. You got the Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George. So it's all about your big 2 and whether or not they're good enough. And I don't know if they made that, or if Tatum's made that step, because if Tatum can make that step, he can drag Jaylen Brown along with him. You know what I mean? Because that means Tatum's that good. So yeah, if he can get to like the top 5, top 6 player in the league, now, all right. But if you had a guy like Bradley Beal, or if you can get a Dame Dollar, shoot. Now,
a guy that's a bucket,
right.
That.
Right. Get out the way. Dame Dollar can get buckets. Get out the way. Bradley Beal can get buckets. Jaylen Brown is not really that type of guy. Tatum kind of is, but he hasn't proved that he could do it all the time.
No, I hear what you're
Absolutely.
saying for sure. John, do you have a question? I did have another Celtic question, real quick, that I wanted to ask.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been hearing a lot, about, Tatum and Brown, and as far as their playmaking ability, and I know guys like, Ime Udoka have said this a lot, that he's trying to make them, become better, playmakers and make the other,
Right.
the others around them better. Do you think that, Tatum and Brown are capable of doing that, of making, the other guys around them better and becoming like elite playmakers? Like you see all of those elite guys that, we've named and talk about, they're not only great scorers, like Tatum and Brown are great scorers, but other guys are great scorers, but they're also really good playmakers. So do you think that, they can be able to get to that level?
I definitely think Tatum could get to that level, right? Because I think Jaylen Brown's game is different, right? I think Jaylen Brown, he's more of a transition player, in my opinion. So you need, like, I really wanted Lonzo Ball. I think Lonzo Ball would have worked well with them too, or even a guy like Ben Simmons would work well with them too, especially for Jaylen Brown, a guy who can run the floor, use his athletic ability, kind of hit that corner pocket three-pointer, but not a guy that just, in my opinion, Jaylen Brown is not a guy you give him the ball and he's going to make plays. Tatum's doing that, right? Tatum's got to be more of that playmaker, get the ball, you know what, I could do a number of things. Like Tatum to me has that, and now this is some high regard, but he has that Kevin Durant feel of game. Like that's where I feel like Tatum's ceiling could be. And Durant can create, and when Durant wants to, he can make players around him better. But I feel like Tatum has that skill set. I think Brown is more of a transition player. You know what I mean? And I don't think this team fits the way, because they don't have that transition point guard. So that I think is something I'll be looking at this season. But to me, I still think they're missing that piece. I don't know if Dennis Schroeder is that type of player. Is he that transition point guard? Is he that Brown, use your athletic ability, run, get out on the wing and go finish. So you look at the Celtics, and I still think that's where I just don't think that they're built right. You know what I mean, with the players that they have.
No, definitely hear what you're saying for sure. There's some that
we can talk basketball all night long. I could do it all night long.
I hear you, man. We're all big basketball guys here. For sure. All big Celtics fans, all bleed green here. So I hear that.
Wigyy, I want to thank you for answering all those past questions, those Celtics questions. Mm-hmm. But I feel as though it wouldn't be right if I interview Wiggins and then I ask him this question. What happened on the Minnesota board party?
What happened? You know what? I still don't know. Nobody will tell me what happened.
Man. Oh, man.
Hey, listen, I was taught the streets never talk, and nobody's telling me anything.
Can we grab a beer or something? And then we'll talk.
Hey, listen, I grew up in the world where they said the streets never talk, and so I don't know. I'm looking for answers. You know what I mean? As soon as I hear something, I'll let you know. How's that?
All right, man. Appreciate it.
That's hilarious, man.
Oh, man. Yeah, you really don't know. Huh?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I ain't seen nothing. I ain't heard nothing.
It's all good. No worries. All good.
To wrap up, this is my last question right here. Obviously, you're part of the culture. We hear it on the radio all the time. You know what I mean? How do we get, guys like us on the WEEI to bring them some more culture over there?
I would just say, keep listening, call in. And when you do call in, just, voice your concerns, because that's what I try to do. I try to bring, like you said, the other side of the track that they don't see. I try to get people to see that, but it's more about the voices of the people, right? Yeah. And you know, and to me, that's the way I look at it, whether that's on social media, whether that's calling in on the show, is like, yo, those voices need to be heard too. And I'm trying to be a voice for the culture, and just, you know, the you know, the lifestyle. And that's it, because I think a lot of times, you know, obviously they feel like, I think a lot of times people don't realize there's a big culture like out there that represents, you know, what it's like for people like us that live out here, that grew up here, that are sports fans, that are in the streets, that understand what the culture's all about. So that's my biggest thing, is to try to, you know, keep shedding light on it. You know what I mean? And keep shedding light on it in a positive way, and keep shedding light on it like there's a lot of good people out there. Because listen, man, what I do is you know, there are a lot of people, a lot of talented people out there that can do what I could do. Like I said, I've just been blessed and fortunate. And I know the road could be difficult, but it's all about keep getting the message out there, keep doing what you're doing, because, you know, people want to hear from us, right? You know, people want to hear from us, and that's kind of what we have to do. You know what I mean? To kind of, you know, represent the culture, represent the cause, you know, represent the voice of the people.
Absolutely, man. That's what we're trying to do over here. So hopefully they let us in over there, man, for sure. You know what I mean?
Doubt.
But Wigyy, Barry, do you have something to say?
Yeah. One last question, real quick. I need your opinion on this, since you're a big Boston guy. Top 5 Boston athletes of all time. What you think?
Time. All right. So obviously Brady's number 1 on the list. You got to put Big Papi on that list.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put, I mean, obviously I got to go back. I grew up, you know, I never seen the guy play, but, you know, my grandfather used to tell me about him all the time. You got to put Bill Russell on that list, just for everything that he stood for and he represented. You know, I'm a hockey fan, so I would probably put like Bobby Orr on that list, because what he did for the hockey culture. And then let's see. Oh, man.
Jermain Wiggins, come on.
You know what? You might have a point, though. You might have a point. I was thinking more like, do I go Pierce or Bird? But you maybe might have a point. Maybe I should.
You might crack the top 5, man.
You know what? I'm going to put myself up there, because I'm from here, so I represent more than any one of those guys.
You caught that Wiggy. You caught that pass. Imagine if you didn't catch that pass. Vinatieri missed the field goals. There's no dynasty. You know, Patriots sucks. Come on now. You got to give yourself credit.
You make a great point right there. So, yeah, number 5 on that list would be me. Because if I,
you're
right, there might be no Brady on that list if I ain't did what I did. And then again.
Bingo. Got it.
I grew up in Boston. I went to a Boston public high school. I lived in the city.
The story writes itself. The story writes itself.
Yeah, you know what? I'm always in the city. My uncle still lives there. My mother lived there, you know, just up in, you know, till she recently passed away. So it's like, you know what? I got Boston tattooed on me. Yeah, you know what? All those guys have done a tremendous job, but they don't bleed the Boston that I bleed. They're all from different parts.
Yeah. Nobody's like Wiggy. Nobody's like Wiggy.
Exactly.
I got
There's only one Wiggy. The one and only.
Yeah. Number 5 on your list is Jermain Wiggins.
Hey, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I like to hear. My man.
All day.
Yes,
That's
sir.
facts.
Yes, sir. Wiggins in the top 5 of Boston sports athletes. I like
that. You know what? You can make a case for it. Keep making that case.
There you go,
see
man.
What happens. Right.
That's what's up.
No doubt.
Absolutely, man. Wiggy, man, it's been a pleasure interviewing you, getting to talk to you, chopping it up about the, you know, Boston sports scene. We appreciate you, man, and keep doing what you're doing. And you'll definitely hear from us on, you know, on them calls trying to get in there.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Just like I said, keep it up, man, and, you know, put it up on social media, and I'll definitely, you know, retweet it, repost it, all that stuff, and tag
Awesome.
you guys, all
Awesome.
that good stuff, and keep
Appreciate
it up,
you.
man. You know what I
Respect.
mean? The voices need to be heard.
Absolutely, man.
All right,
No
thanks,
doubt.
You know
Wiggy.
that. You already
got it.
know.
All
Have
right,
a good
got
night,
it.
Appreciate it,
brother.
Wiggy. Thanks for coming on,
See ya.
man. It
Not
was
a
a blast having you.
All right, later.
All right, take it easy. Have a good one.
Yep.
Awesome. Yes,
Great
that
Awesome,
was
man. Awesome.
great. Yes, very
Absolutely,
awesome.
man. You know what I mean? Obviously, if you're still watching, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Make sure you're following us on social media. ProFans_sports on Twitter, on Instagram, and ProFanSports on every other platform. And make sure you're following Wigyy too, man, at jwigs85 on Twitter, and I believe it's the same thing on Instagram, because obviously he's a real dude, real humble, and he's a legend around these parts. So we're definitely gonna support him and thank him again for coming on Pro Fan Sports Podcast. So until the next one, we'll holla at y'all.
Peace out, everyone. Have a good week. See y'all next week.